Croods, A New Age is the sequel to the original film that came out in 2013. That one was also made by Dreamworks, but the distributors changed. For the first one, it was 20th Century Fox, now Disney. But this time around, and recently, Dreamworks has been distributed by Universal. And this movie follows the Crood family yet again. Eep and Guy are still continuing their relationship. Grug, played by Nicolas Cage, is still very overprotective, wants to keep the family safe as per usual. And then one day, they encounter this wall. And once they get through the wall, they meet this family of three living there on this beautiful landscape. They're more evolved than the Croods in the sense that they have come up with a lot of technology available at their time to help their living and become more like a modern day family, but back in the prehistoric era as well. And as these two families are now living together on this same place, they are learning how to get along with each other and overcome certain differences that they may have. I was interested in this movie for sure because the first Croods is actually, I feel like it gets a bad rap or just it's a fine whatever movie. I actually really do like that movie. It's very enjoyable, it's very funny, but also at the end of the day, it strikes at your heart in an emotionally resonant way. I rewatched it a couple days ago, and while I wasn't like ugly crying during like some of Disney or Pixar's best movies, I was almost on the verge, like it got me like tearing up just a bit. Not a full tear, but just welling up in the eye area. And the trailer for this movie didn't look awful or anything, but I was worried because it seemed like they were going in a direction that was a little familiar, maybe a little predictable. And I'm just gonna let you guys know right now, if you're expecting another Croods movie that is a little more emotionally resonant, that's not really the movie you're gonna get here. The opening of this movie is very like dark, believe it or not. Like I was surprised that they opened the movie like that, but obviously I was welcome to it because it was a very dark way to open this movie and remind you about Guy as a character, remind you what's happened in his life and why certain things as the plot unfolds are important to him. And Ryan Reynolds does another great job voicing that character. He's got like the perfect voice for animation, like other than just he's a funny guy in real life, his voice just, it works perfectly for any kind of animation role if you wanted to give him one, especially Guy. But other than that opening scene, yes, there are characters that learn certain things and they grow as characters. There's arcs that are fulfilled, but it's not really something that'll make you start to tear up like, oh, that's getting to me. It's just a lot of like, yep, that feels about right for this movie. I think that's like walking out of it, my biggest issue is that they could have spent maybe a little bit more time making sure certain emotional beats hit, like fleshing out a certain dynamic that Guy apparently has before they reveal it a couple minutes in without any kind of backstory or development with that. And also there's noticeably, like I said before, it's very familiar. There's certain tropes that they have to hit, and obviously they do it in a Croods fashion, but it's not really something that I would say is all around fresh or very new. It kind of just felt like, okay, they're hitting this trope now. I'm not particularly bothered by it, but it's just noticeable that that's what they're doing and that it's all that they're kind of doing. So if you don't think that's going to be the movie for you, then maybe skip out on this one. But honestly, despite those things, I actually had a really good time with this movie. It's very funny. It definitely retains that sense of humor that the first movie had, which also had me rolling a lot in certain places. There's like a scene where just the Crood family just goes fucking nuts, and it's so insane to see what they're doing, and I couldn't stop laughing. It was amazing. Also, the animation is spectacular. Not just the landscapes, the backgrounds, but the creature design. It's something that obviously they're continuing from the first movie. The first movie has beautiful animation that still holds up 7 years later, and this animation just looks even better. It's more colorful and vibrant. It's amazing to look at, and even some of the character design looks really great. It's something in particular that maybe it's just me that's like really impressed by this, but like Emma Stone's character Eep, there's certain ways in which she talks, moves her face that just reminds me of like Emma Stone in real life. So it's like a perfect, like the animators that are constructing Eep's face and also the way they animate her facial movements. I know they probably set up cameras when the actors are recording to try to capture their looks for the characters, but they do a really great job in this movie doing that, especially with Eep. And also Phil Betterman, played by Peter Dinklage. The Bettermans themselves are they're really fun characters. Leslie Mann, who plays the wife, she does a really great job. Her voice, like Ryan Reynolds, is like kind of perfect for animation and also for this character, so it was nice to see her play that, and she's really funny in this movie. But Phil Betterman, played by Peter Dinklage, obviously one of our greatest living actors who does a great job here. It's just great to hear his voice. He can really make anything work. But the way they animate him too is that's the key to his character, because he's obviously funny written, and Peter Dinklage knows how to play that with his voice, but the animation team, they do a really great job constructing his face. He's got like a little pout in his lips. There's certain times where you can feel like the elitist, like condescending nature of this character, but they make it funny and make it entertaining. It's just so fun to see how much he acts more as if he's like on a stage. Compared to everyone else, it feels like this character model was just actually acting as if it was around people like on a stage, whereas everyone else is animation acting, if that makes any sense. It was really impressive. Nicolas Cage, I feel like, should be offering himself up to every animated movie instead of the lame VOD ones that he always does, because his voice works really well for animation, and I really do like Grug as a character. He plays that so well. It's kind of perfect for him. And I don't think they really retconned his character either. Like in the first movie, he kind of accepted new ideas and going into the unknown and even accepting Guy, but in the second one, he still has to kind of get over the hump of being a protective father for his daughter. You know, he still hasn't lost that edge. So I like the way they continued his character. Kelly Marie Tran plays the daughter in the Betterman family, and she works really well too. She has really good vocal chemistry with Emma Stone's Eve, and they get along really well. She's really fun to watch. They don't try to play up her character too much. That's what I was kind of thinking. It seems like maybe she's going to be like a secondary kind of protagonist behind Eep. But they don't really play it up that much, but she's still a fun addition, and she still has a significant enough to do. The rest of the family obviously still does really great. Cloris Leachman as the grandma, she's still really funny, and Thunk has like a running joke, not like the technology one, although that is pretty funny what they're able to do with that, but there's a joke that he does, and it came out of nowhere, and it was shocking. For a kid's movie, I was surprised they did it, but I was like, okay, that's really funny, and I thought that was it. And then they bring it back near the end of the movie during one of the climactic moments, and I was dying. It was so funny. So like I said before, this movie is more of a comedy. This movie is very funny, and they do hit a lot of comedy tropes as far as movie making and script writing goes. And although this movie does occasionally kind of flirt with the idea of having some emotionally resonant moments, it never really does go that hard with it, so kids will definitely really love this. But parents, I don't think, will be turned off by that. You know, not every animated movie has to be really dark and deep for parents to enjoy. Sometimes you just need some really clever gags and some really fun characters, some beautiful animation, and some fantastic action as well. When the movie does get to its third act, the action is honestly surprisingly really good, which I wasn't really expecting. There's a couple minor kind of action stuff that happens before, and obviously that's still really fun, but the third act, it goes full on kind of action chase moment, and it's really well done. They do a really fantastic job. Mark Mothersbaugh does a really great job with the score. Alan Silvestri's in the first movie is obviously great. I'd say that's probably superior just because it's Alan Silvestri and I have a soft spot for him, but Mark Mothersbaugh is not someone that you can just write off either. He still does a really great job providing the music for this movie. As far as any other issues I had with it besides the one I mentioned, there's kind of an inciting incident that propels the rest of the character arcs. That's not something that happens in the third act. It's kind of in the middle of the movie, maybe a couple minutes before that too. And I thought it was just kind of lazily handled. It kind of structures itself in a family dinner argument scene, but certain aspects of them all kind of getting mad at each other and certain things coming to light just felt I feel like you probably would have had a better plan than you did, because a couple characters are scheming, but it seems like their scheme during the scene is just easily found out, and then now everyone's mad at each other. And I was just kind of not really sure about that, but obviously, the movie kept going, so it's not like it threw me off or anything. It was just one of those weird things, I wish they handled that better. And also there's a couple small technical things not really worth mentioning, but it really more so has to do with certain staging things they do as far as where characters show up. Like I said, not really worth mentioning and not really something most people will care about, but I still had a really fun time with this movie. If you really do want to go to the theaters to see the Croods, then I guess if you feel safe enough to, then sure, it's a fun movie. I'm going to give The Croods a New Age a B. I think they continued the characters very well. They have some really funny gags, some really wonderful animation, some really good music and action. This movie, I think, is really worth it for the family. Mostly kids will probably dig it. I don't know if they'll like it more than the first one or not. Maybe they will, because I think this movie is probably funnier than the first one, so I think that'll appeal to kids, but parents will not end up hating themselves. I feel like this is closely attributed as far as quality goes to the Angry Birds movie 2. 2, which if you remember my review, I enjoyed that movie because it's mostly an animation comedy. I'd say The Croods and New Age is better, but similarly to Angry Birds 2, they are focusing more on comedy and not really going too heavy with certain things. But if you've seen The Croods and New Age, leave in the comments below what you thought of it, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.